Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to another episode of the Success Series. I'm your host, David Berg. I'm here with our co-host and producer, Michael Konowski, and our very special guest and good friend, Nima Hakimi. Nima, thank you for being here today. Nima is the co-founder and CEO of Convoso, great SaaS company. We'll get into it and get into his story. Nima, if you could just kick off for listeners with a little bit about your journey, how Convoso started and how that came about.
Yeah, it's been an 18-year-long journey. You know, sometimes when I think about it, I'm like, 18 years is a very long time.
Right.
Just who I was as a human to now, very different. You know, and the business wasn't supposed to be in the business in the first place. It was more so started as a favor to a cousin of mine who had a mortgage company, and he had telemarketers that were looking to make calls on their leads. And so it started from a favor where my business partner and brother, Bobby, helped him put something together as a favor. And then we realized at that time, voice over IP, making calls through your computer was this revolutionary thing. And nobody could make calls through your computer back then. And the cloud was just a new thing. Like nobody knew what the word cloud even meant.
What year was it?
This was 2006.
Okay.
Yeah. And the funny thing is that all happened just because we had a different business that was widely successful that just crashed and just went out of business essentially. You know, and at that time we were left not with much just in terms of anything to do, and so helped them out. And then we realized that there's others that are in the space in terms of having mortgage business and had a need. So we started providing this service, and essentially it is an AI-powered sales platform for revenue teams that are focused on B2C, so calling leads and getting those leads on the phone.
Sure.
And yeah, it turned from a favor into a business once we realized that there's a need that people have for this product, especially because back then it was really expensive. If you wanted to like have this type of technology, you needed to purchase the hardware. So it's premise-based. And so when you do it cloud-based, you're just paying the monthly fee, right?
Sure.
So it's a lot more affordable now, whereas before you used to have to pay $100,000 up front
to use the software.
Just to use the software, exactly. And so a lot of small businesses didn't have the ability to do that. And so this opened up the doors for a lot of small businesses to be able to take advantage of this type of technology.
Sure. You mentioned that the business started from almost a project and then turned into a very successful business. You guys are doing over 9 figures in revenue. What do you think is the best way to start a business? Is it having an idea that's solving a small need? Or can you think, I want to change the world and I have this great idea and then go and pursue that?
I mean, look, I would say there's definitely multiple ways. If I had to think, for us, it was definitely identifying a need, you know, because you have those that say, hey, build it and hope they come. I don't think that works. Right? You could spend a lot of time spinning your wheels on it. For us, we knew that there was a need because the pain of doing anything manual, you know, is great. So anytime you can automate it and solve a problem of making things more efficient,
right,
I feel like you're onto something there. So yeah.
How long would you say from sort of idea inception? Are you technical or is your brother Bobby? By the way, we had him on the show early on, so it's full circle. But who's more technical?
He's a technical product.
Okay.
On the product, the GS, I'm more on the operations, the sales and marketing side of it.
Okay. And was that determined early on? Like I find it interesting. I'll ask a follow-up question to that. Most time brothers don't get along very well, especially when it comes to, you know, like starting a company together. It doesn't usually happen. So were you guys always close, and was it always clear you were going to start something together, or did it kind of happen naturally?
I mean, as it happened naturally, but actually he was more of he started things out to begin with when it came to any kind of business. And then I just, you know, started being interested in seeing what he does. And I just kind of followed his lead on that. He was doing everything as a whole prior to this business. And then when I came on board and I just basically did the same thing he did, we were doing websites for music websites back before. So I just basically made my own website with his help. And then over time it evolved. But no, it took a long time for us to appreciate each other's strengths and understand where we're really good at and just work through that and find a groove so that, you know, I let him do his thing and he trusts me to do my part.
Sure.
But there was a lot of butting heads and a lot of, you know, what is it called? Judgment and like a lot of that.
I'm sure it's probably inevitable, right?
Yeah.
So today, has that relationship morphed over time? You're the CEO. Like I'll speak in, you know, my example. Initially with my partner, it didn't work out because I was CEO and he also wanted to be CEO. So how did that come about?
Yeah, we had a very unique dynamic in the sense that Bobby does think about big ideas. So I kind of lean on him. You know, when you look at the typical CEO role of having the vision and rise forward, I would say it's a little bit not typical in terms of how we are in that sense. So he'll have the ideas from a product standpoint of view, right? Because we're a product company, so at the core of it, having that vision, it's not necessarily the whole company's vision,
Right.
but the product itself. So he has that part of it. And then really the way it has worked for us is that I'll integrate and execute the vision in a sense over the course of the company. So like you could look at that as more operational than the vision side of it. But at the same time, I think about the company as a whole in terms of, well, it's not just the product, right? It's like, what markets do we want to go to? What do we want to do in the bigger picture of things? And the product is a big component of it. So I lean on him on that. And then I take the whole business as a whole into consideration in terms of just executing it amongst other things.
Got it. So it's the roles are sort of intangible between what you guys are really doing, but
yeah, I focus on the culture, the people, the company, the operations, and then on his end, it's really
product and driving sort of the, I guess execution comes from product, but he's driving the broader vision as well.
Yeah. So look, it's a little bit not like what's the word I'm looking for?
Typical.
Typical. Yeah. It's not typical.
Yeah.
But it's worked for us.
Right.
So.
I mean, clearly, right?
Yeah.
18 years later, most companies fail after the first year. You guys are very successful. Today, looking at the company now, and we're in your office, I don't know, they can't really see behind us all the seats there. How many employees are full-time, either in office or remotely today?
Today, we have about a little over 220 between the US, so all around, and then India, the Philippines, and Brazil. There's a few other places, both here in LA and then around the US as well.
And so in hiring for that, because I'm going through the process now myself, and we only have a team of 7 now, but again, we were 0 a couple months ago. So
that's great.
Yeah, so I feel like the first few hires are the hardest. Does it get easier? And then when you have 100 employees, 200 employees, how do you even have the time or even know, like it's just another cog in the wheel? Is it still the same sort of process that you did when you hired your first employee as it is today?
It's still hard.
Yeah.
Especially as you grow, you really got to pay attention to, do you have the right people in the right seats? And that is, I think, one of the most difficult things as you grow and scale is being able to determine if that's the case, and if not, what do you need to do to change? So, no, I mean, your company grows and scales, you have different problems than you had before, right? Like at the beginning, you're just trying to make things happen, and you're just trying to do as much as possible to prove out, whatever it is that you're trying to do. And then once it works, to scale it is a whole different beast. And some people can grow with that scale and others can't. And I think the hardest thing, at least what I'm learning, is being able to identify that in a timely manner. Like, what can you do? And from us, for myself, I'm learning and growing. So it's not like I can always coach and guide the person on getting them to the next level in terms of the technical skills.
Sure.
And so that's the hard part, is that you need people with very specific technical skills that can execute.
Right.
And it becomes easier to have the ability to get those people in terms of, as your company grows and has revenue coming in.
Right. You can afford to pay salaries.
Yeah. And it becomes easier in that sense.
Right.
But then the flip side of it is you still need to find the right person that can do the job.
Right. So you think that the second 100 employee is just as important as the first employee? Yeah. Really? Every employee, every hire, no matter.
For a tech company, you need there are a lot of roles that are very specialized. You have your salespeople, you have customer success, but especially like a product like ours, so it just depends. It's very complex. It does a lot of things, so you need a lot of specialized people. And so if you don't, role specialization becomes more important as you scale and grow. Before, a lot of people can wear a lot of hats. But I think that's really what becomes more important, right? You want to go from the generalist to more of the specialist.
Sure.
So that's kind of where I think it becomes more important as you grow and scale. Whereas early on, it is still important, but you want to, people do multiple things.
Right.
It becomes more important. And so that's been a learning experience for us too, through a lot of years of hiring a lot of people that are great, hardworking, fantastic. At the same time, it's, as you go and scale, you want to do bigger things. You need somebody who's really good at revenue operations, or you need somebody who's really good at being a sales engineer, or a really good product manager has focus on compliance, for example. So that's where it becomes very specific.
Right. It's interesting. You're using the word learning now and learning this. You've been in the business for 18 years. You're the CEO of a massive multi-million-dollar company, and you're still learning today. Is that an ever evolving process? Is that always the case?
Yeah, and I think some of it early on came from a place of like so my own journey is this lack of, I'm not enough, I don't know enough, I'm not worthy, and I use that as a motivation to like, okay, I don't know how to do it. I'm going to read a book.
Right.
I'm going to go research it on Google. I'm going to go on a workshop. I'm going to go to network. And so that's my driving force, is always like that mentality of I don't know it, so I need to learn it. Even one of our core values is continuous growth. So that's very important for us to have that mindset.
Let's put aside the fact that you, like you said, right, it's always something that you are navigating through in your own life, right? Feeling like you're worthy, feeling like you're this. Let's put that aside for a moment, because I think ego can come in many forms, and we're both spiritual. So when you think about ego and being so successful, how does it not come up like, I'm better, I know more than my employees, it's my company, if not for me, this wouldn't be.
I don't know, it's a very, and my growth, my journey is like, I'm still always constantly evolving, meaning that level of worthiness. I still feel like I have the imposter.
Even today, even after you built all of this, you still don't feel like you deserve it.
Because I'm like, hey, we need to get to this next level, right?
Okay.
And I'm
to that.
I need to step up to get to this next. I need to learn things like, and my people a lot of times tell me, you don't give yourself enough credit. You know a lot more than you do. But for me, it's, I guess, my driving force of
it's never enough, or it's.
Yeah, and like maybe it's not maybe you want to get to a place, like I do accept the fact that I've accomplished a lot and I know a lot, but that's not going to get me to that next level. So it's like, I need to constantly find ways of doing things differently to reach that next level. Because to go from 0 to 1 million to 5 to 10 to 20 to 50 to 50 to 100, different ways of doing things, different ways of managing, different ways of like, it becomes a different ballgame. So it's not like I've done that before. So I need to learn how to change my ways of doing things. Whereas before I used to be in the weeds of things.
Right.
And it's being used to being that way, right? How do you step away and work more on the business? Everybody said like work on the business, not in the business.
Interesting. So like zoom out and not be so much.
And it's hard because for the first 10 or 12 years, the company was very small.
Right.
So I was used to wearing multiple hats.
Oh, you just recently like sort of grew the company in the last couple of years. Like
it was about.
What were you doing revenue wise, like 2015?
Yeah, and I would say revenue for the first 4 or 5 years was like, we went from 100,000, 500,000 to like 2 million, and then we plateaued.
Wow, so it's flatlined kind of.
2 million for like 4 years, somewhere like that.
What do you think that is? Why?
And so 10 years into it, we were trying to rebuild our product from the very first moment that we launched, because it was based off of an open source software. And so we were like, we knew that it wasn't good enough, but it helped us launch really fast. So we rebuilt it 3 times. It took us 10 years. 10 years to rebuild it. We gave up literally, we had to throw the code away 3 times.
That's crazy.
And 10 years later, once we launched it and rebuilt it, then the customers started noticing a big difference in their performance of our product is all about getting leads on the phone and as many of them as possible. That's what our customers care about. Once we were able to prove that it's doing better than it was before, word of mouth started to spread, and we just started to get business from everywhere. And that's where the company just started to take off and go through the roof.
To go into the technical aspect of it, what about the software increases the likelihood of somebody picking up the phone as opposed to me calling a list of leads that I have on my computer?
Yeah, I mean, when you have, 100 leads, and you have 10,000 leads or 100,000 leads, the lead management automation about when you decide, people don't pick up the phone, right? Even if you fill out you go on a website and fill out the form, you get a lot of calls, and so, or you might be busy at that time, you might not pick it up.
Right.
So one, knowing when to call again when the person doesn't answer, how many times to retry, what to do when they do pick up and they hang up. There's a lot of automation involved that figures out how to ensure that you get the highest percentage or contact rate, is what our customers refer to it.
Sure.
There's obviously managing call ID reputation, as you know, the calls that come on, Bank of America, Bank of America, any of these banks, their calls are getting flagged, right?
Which is crazy.
So we've developed technology to manage that for our customers.
And even today, with all the bypass rules and the can spam, you're still able to get through that at this point.
Yeah, I mean, it's a problem that our customers deal with,
right?
But there's a process they have to follow on how to minimize that happens. And the more you manage the process around how you engage the consumer, not just through calling, but text messages. You have to find a way to do it in a responsible way.
Right.
And that you can't do that manually. Like if you have 1,000 leads, how can you do that and ensure that every lead has the engagement it needs over a period of time
Right.
to get that? And so our system has a lot of automation built, rules-based, that determine what happens based on the outcome of the call, the age of the lead,
Sure.
different things like that.
So okay. So I have two questions. One, how are you determining? Like, let's say you call. Let's say one of your customers are using to call me. They call me. I don't pick up. How are you able to gather any sort of intent on when to call me back?
We give insights to our customers,
Okay.
where they can look at the reports.
So just like give me like a real life example, just so we can.
Well, you have to look at the see, like, first of all, there's no exact science like, oh, they pick up at this time.
Right.
It's not
Okay. That's what I was like. That'd be pretty cool. Yeah. I know when I go to the bathroom. You know when I wake up.
Yeah. It's not like that. It's more so knowing over what period of time to try, how many attempts to try, and knowing when there's a point of diminishing returns where the person just will not pick up.
Right.
And you just stop. And it's analyzing the data. So our customers a lot of times have data analysts that look at the reports our system provides.
Right.
To figure out like what they need to do with their cadence, essentially the call cadence around how often they should call, how many days, and then tapering it off over a period of time. So you create this cadence that says in the system, call them right now. When they fill it out, if they don't answer, try maybe in an hour, maybe 3 hours, then the next day, and then 3 days from now. And you can just set that over a period of time.
See, so it builds a system based off actual rationale, as opposed to if I was going to do it, I would just randomly, whenever I feel like, and that doesn't work.
No, that doesn't work exactly.
Right. Okay.
And so you just automate that process, and then you play with it. You have to review the results. There's a lot of complexities that get into it.
And so that's all phone calls. Are you guys doing SMS? Are you doing any other sort of communication strat other than phone calls at the moment?
Yeah, so SMS is involved in it as well. You can create a workflow that determines if they fill out the form. Maybe you just want to send a text message first. You can do an email and a phone call. So it's an omni-channel approach where you could decide how to engage the consumer with these channels.
Right. Incredible. Let's go back 18 years. You launched the company. You guys are making a ton of revenue now. Did you ever raise capital to fund the company initially, or did you bootstrap it the whole way through?
Bootstrap, I'd say the only thing is early on, and I freaked out, is I want to say the first year we had our parents take out a line of credit on their home equity line. We had maybe like 5 employees, programmers, and Bobby's like, we need to buy servers and other things. And so I think after a month or 2 months, we spent $160,000, and we're like, what just happened?
Where did it go?
Where did it go? We hired some people and it didn't work out, like the developers. Right. And I'm like, we need to stop spending. Now, in hindsight, if we didn't do that, this would have never gotten there, right? But outside of that, that was the only money we took in.
Wow.
And we're always just very scrappy around finding ways to get customers. I had a background in digital marketing, so we were just very scrappy to figure out how to get a customer and another one. And then as revenue came in, we just put all the money back into the business. But it's always been bootstrapped outside of that.
So you haven't raised any other VC or any institutional capital to this date, aside from that line of credit?
None.
Incredible. So would your advice be to a startup founder now that they should try to bootstrap it if they can? Or would you say the times are different and raise money if you're able to?
I mean, listen, I've never raised it to say would I prefer that way? I would say that one way or the other. I would say one thing I've learned, and I'm still learning, is you got to put, if you don't have the money to get the people in, you're gonna suffer one way or the other.
Sure.
So for us, it's always about making tough decisions, and those tough decisions have cost us over time. Like we've lost $1 million a year customer because we didn't invest in more servers, for example. And we couldn't because we didn't have. So we control our own destiny, right? I mean, so in a sense, it's great. I haven't tried it. I want to try the other round and see how it works. Yeah. I think if I raised money from someone and they gave me money, I would have more accountability.
Right, because it's not just your money anymore. It's someone.
Yeah. And people thrive on being held accountable, right? So in that sense, I think it would be great. Otherwise, I don't have to answer to anybody,
right? Yeah. That was my follow-up question, because you guys have been around for 18 years. Had you raised institutional money, there would have been immense pressure to exit or sell within 3 to 5 years. So my question to you is, was it never part of the plan to let's build this, let's make 10 million in revenue and let's sell? Was that not the vision early on? And then today, where are you guys at?
The vision early on was hey, this is a good idea. This is a cool product. Yeah. Right. There's a lot of opportunity. Let's just start selling and generate revenue.
Right.
And then over time, we're like, okay, especially now over the past year, we're like, we need to really think through what is the long-term vision of the business. So like I guess what I'm trying to say is everybody talks about like you have to have a vision, you have to have vision.
Right.
For sure, very important. We've done it with a very limited vision or a vision that's changed over time.
Sure.
You know, I'm not saying you should go that route, but I'm just saying that it can work depending on what you do about it. And,
Right.
you know, future, we'll see. We've grown a lot. We like what we do. And so we'll see what the future holds.
Right. But it's not out of the cards to sell.
No, I mean, we've been doing this for 18 years. I don't want to do it for another 18 years, for sure. I think we've been able to get to a really good point, and then, you know, we'll look at that as well.
So the other question I have, and I'm thinking through my own lens, and I'm sure our audience can relate, even though I'm asking for myself. At what point does it make sense to start pulling money out of the company? And then was there a moment where you're like, I hate to sound corny, but I'm rich, or like this worked? And when that moment happened, was it as great as you thought it would be?
For the first couple of years, there was nothing.
No money. So you basically broke, like living on month to month, whatever.
And I was living at my parents' house, so like my expenses were very limited. You know, at that time I was like 19. And after a couple of years, maybe we were paying ourselves like a couple $1,000s a month.
Okay, but just enough to get by, like
And it was always very limited in comparison to the work we were doing and we were paying ourselves. I think it took 10 years before we're taking some distributions that were a little bit meaningful.
Right. So for the first 10 years, like you weren't taking out millions of dollars from the company.
No, nothing. No, even to this day, we honestly reinvest most of it into the business. Like, you know,
what does that look like? Like you have all this revenue coming in. Why do you need to put your own capital back into the company at this point?
Well, we want to continue to scale and grow, right?
Okay.
And in order to do that, to grow at a percentage, if we want to grow 20, 30, 40% year over year, that can't happen. Year over year, you increase revenue.
Tremendous growth.
So, for that tremendous growth, you have to put the capital back into the business. So it's really a lot of that, you know, delaying the gratification of it. Like we have not really, not to say that financially wise, we haven't been able to take advantage of what the business has done, but the level
that you could, or that most people probably would.
Yeah, we have restricted to the maximum. I mean, there's things that we've done, of course, we expect after 18 years. But it's not like anybody might think like, oh my God, this is a business at this scale, right? Then
this is the way that
I mean, I have a nice car and certain things. I make investments and whatnot,
right?
But it's not like somebody might be like, you know, it's like go all out, do whatever you want, right? Thinking about it.
Like you hear stories of startup founders 4 years into the business, companies making a few $1 million a year. They buy a jet, they have a boat, they have and clearly you're not doing that.
No.
Why?
That's a good question. Part of it is, again, like we have a certain goal of what we want to do with the business and grow. I think some of it is it's a good question when you ask that. Like why? Why not do that?
Why not do it? You dedicated 18 years to this business.
Yeah.
It's only here because of you guys.
Yeah, I think it's the bootstrap, the entrepreneur mindset of like every dollar counts.
Right.
Put every dollar back. It's just the mindset. It's of how, that's what allowed us to get there.
Right.
But it's also, we're very responsible. We don't have outside funding or anything like that, right? So like businesses over the course of time, the 18 years, it's not like it went like this.
Right.
We had ups and downs. We lost a big customer. And so we just manage it responsibly so that in an event there's something that happens, we don't have to make drastic changes in the company. We can manage through the ups and downs.
Sure. What are the most unexpected things in building a successful company that you didn't expect when you first started?
We came from a business before that the cash flow, it came fast. A software company is not like that.
Right.
I mean, some hit it off right away or a year or two later, but this is knowing that the sales cycles, like the customers that we work with, you know, I used to be in the business that was very transactional. You could see every dollar come in a day later. It was ad sales, it was media buying. So you could see revenue coming in, and, you know, that wasn't the case. So in this business, it's all about building up the customer base and retaining them. And over time, you start seeing that. So just knowing that the business you're in, what the business model is, understanding it very early on. Like, I didn't know anything about software.
Right.
I have no idea. We're just kind of like, okay, let's do this. So knowing the business model and understanding how that works and how it scales so that your motivation doesn't go away. Because at some point we're operating the business like we need to make money and pay ourselves. But that also, again, like created a situation of but put it back in.
Right.
So the long game is one. Unexpected, the human component. I think that's really one of the most difficult things in the sense that everybody that works here, they're humans at the end of the day, right? You're supporting their livelihood.
Their life, right?
Yeah. And when things don't work out, like in the sense that this person is not performing and you have to
go.
let them go, I think I think I've never heard of a business owner that said like didn't I did it in a timely manner. Like we always know when it's not working, but we make the decision in our head.
Delay it for months.
Yeah,
Is it the hardest part? I haven't, thankfully. I mean, it's all, if I had to, it would be an issue, but I haven't had to do it yet. Hopefully, I never have to. Is it the most like challenging part of running the company or the business, or the most painful?
I think for us, or at least for me, I've done it a bunch of times, but yeah, and I really believe like that is something to master, to know when the time is and do it.
Don't delay it.
Don't delay it. And even when we think about the fact that, if we don't have this person, we're not going to be able to get this thing done. Well, what's happening is when this person is not performing, you're also losing in other ways that you realize.
Right.
So there's a mentality of hire slowly, fire quickly. There's hire fast, hire fast, fire fast.
Fire fast, fire fast.
Interesting. That's to me something that's unexpected because you build relationships with the people. And so when there's time to like make that decision.
Yeah, you care about them. You know about their kids. You know about their wife. It's like it's really can't be easy. Wow. On a slightly different note, your spirituality, that's how you and I know each other through the Kabbalah Center. How was that introduced to your life? And then how has it impacted your business and your personal life?
So let's see, I discovered it the Kabbalah Center 6 years ago.
Okay.
A friend of mine told me about it. And I had been to it years before, but just for like one time.
How did you
Ben.
Yeah.
My friend Ben.
Oh, Ben Jamin.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, we went to school together when we were kids. And so he brought me one time, but I never came back.
Sure.
So then years later, when one of my friends told me about it, I went. And it's transformed things. It's how I figured out that this lack that I had, certainly not I don't have it at the level I had before, but it really helped me figure that out and this judgment. Whereas before I used to I hired this person that didn't work out, they quit or I fired them or we lost because I beat the hell up out of myself.
Wow.
I
You could never let it go. You can never let it go.
And we get it sometimes from Bobby. He'd be like, what happened? Why did this, so this
Can make it worse. He just
so it was this judgment, self-judgment. And then after, a few years, David Gim helped me and with Bobby figure out it was this one time where we had a conversation.
Yeah.
And he told Bobby, why do you judge Nima so much? It was when things were going wrong.
Yeah.
And I'm like, wait a minute. I do that a lot to myself. I didn't realize it. So through the teachings of Kabbalah and just identifying this lack and that's there, I was able to really change the conversation that I had with myself. When things happen now,
you take them. You don't have to react to it right away.
Yeah, it feels a certain kind of way. Okay, it's okay. It happened. We're just gonna figure it out and move forward. And now it's about embracing it. It's knowing that we talk about there's this next level. When the pain comes, we know there's this opening for next level. And the way I do that now with our people, sometimes we lose a customer. It's really big. I'm like, you know what? This is great.
Get excited. Don't you tell me get excited.
And they feel it after that.
Yeah.
Now, it doesn't happen all the time. It's not like I'm perfect. But at the same time, when that happens, they're and they see, you know what? That positivity that comes out, it helps them to feel okay about it too.
Do you think somebody can be happy without spirituality in their life?
No. I think everybody has their own form of what spirituality means to them.
Sure.
So I think if I had to think about it, no, but there's spirituality comes in many different forms.
But you think that without any form of connection to spirituality, it's impossible to be happy in life?
Yeah. I don't think you might be a little bit unaware of things, but you might think you're happy in some ways, but
because you have energy or you're fired up, but that's not. Yeah. It's not happiness.
Yeah, I think there will be lack. Right. And you think that's getting good things.
Right.
But no. It's made a world of a difference. In business, things go wrong every single day, right? And it's now at least you take that proactive approach versus letting things happen to you, and then you're spiraling down this chaotic place. Now it's more about reminding yourself when things happen that there's something good coming.
Right. There's an actual system. It's not random.
Yeah.
Incredible. The last thing I want to ask you, if a lot of our listeners, they're, I don't want to say younger, but they're figuring out and navigating through the early stages of life, and they're really unclear and they want things to happen quickly. And that happens to me often as well. What would your advice be to, especially you've been in this for 18 years, how do you push away that I want the money now, I want success now, I want the business to grow now, and really be present in the day-to-day like you've been for the last 18 years?
To me, and this is who I am, it's you should be constantly learning and doing, learn, talk to people. I mean, kind of what you're doing with the success series, right? But it's just all about learning. And the more you learn, the more you take action, the more outcomes you see of things, the better you get at what you're doing. I think a lot of times, especially when we're younger, we kind of hold back, or like we do things without thinking for sure, but the failures get in our way, right? And that stops the growth. And so to me, it's just every day is something you can take away from that experience. And you may not see it at that moment in time, but you just don't give up. And that's, I think, what Bobby and I have done. We just don't give up. Like, you just keep going, and eventually you will succeed. I mean, people, it's a cliche. Everybody says it, but it's really true.
You lived it, right?
Yeah. Learn. Like, what you're doing is great here, right? Like, just talking to people, read books, go online, just be a sponge as much as possible. Don't be worried so much about the outcome. Be focused on the inputs. What are the things you can do to get you there? But if you're too focused on, like, we need to achieve this, you start losing focus of what you have to do to get there. So that would be my biggest.
Beautiful. Nima, thank you so much for being on the show. It was a pleasure to have you on. Nima Hakimi, everybody, CEO and founder of Convoso. Check them out if you need help with sales or outreach or outbound. Best company in the world. Thank you, Nima.
Thanks.